might appeal to Peyton Manning, and will have exclusive use of their private jet. My first thought is, doesn't Peyton Manning already have a private jet? But second of all, it sounds like they're really trying to. I guess my point is they're really trying to sweeten the pot here for Peyton Manning to. This is a you can't say no type of deal.
Yeah, but Peyton's a guy that doesn't really need the money. I mean, it's always nice to have more money, but Peyton's always been a guy that kind of just does what he wants. So the fact that they've done this tells you that so far whatever they've tried or talked to him about has not worked. So and I don't think Peyton's holding out. I don't think it's all about the money. It's about him being happy. I don't know if he knows exactly what he wants to do yet. You know what I mean? I don't know if he. I know a couple of years ago he really wanted to be in the front office of a football team and be a part owner, but I don't know what Peyton decides to do at this point.
Well, we will see. We're also now officially on Peyton watch. Man, we just got to keep talking about football. But I tell you what's coming up here in 8 days, 7 hours, 43 minutes, and 41 seconds. That is Selection Sunday, and so let's move into that. Obviously, we'll get you a bracket, but let's talk about some of these bubble teams. Let's play the home card again. Let's look at IU. Are they going to get in or are they not going to get in? Because they got to finish up pretty strong if they even have a chance. But I think they're going to get in.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to get in, but I think they can't get embarrassed today against Wisconsin, and they've got to win a first round game. I think in the Big Ten tournament, you can't come out and just get slaughtered today, and then creep into the Big Ten tournament and fall apart in the round one. So I really think that IU they're a very Jekyll and Hyde type team. So I really think they have to keep the game somewhat close today, and then try to take the first round matchup in the Big Ten tournament.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the bubble watch. If you're on the bubble right now and you're looking at some teams, and we'll get into some of these teams here in just a second, but what are some of the teams that you're looking at on the bubble that need to have something happen today?
I mean, there's a team like Purdue who has also been an up-and-down team this year, but they tend to pick up more wins. Michigan, I think, is going to have some success in the Big Ten tournament. They were very good early on. And then, first-year coach, Juwan Howard, I think things just kind of fell apart for a while from Michigan. They're a team, to me, that really needs to try to get things together if they're going to make the NCAA tournament and make it further. You look at a team like that they're an exciting team, and they can be fun, but, man, they've come out in games and just laid eggs like IU has. So I think Michigan's probably the team I have my eye on more than anybody at this point.
Talking to Mo from the BS Sports Show. Follow him on @MoRadio. Hey, let's talk a little bit about some of these play-in games that we talked about the first four a little bit last week, and one of the games that teams that we talked a little bit about was NC State, North Carolina State. Does the Wolfpack have what it needs to move on into the move in from the regular season into the NCAA tournament with the hopes of trying to go even deeper, but they got to get that first four, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, is there a game that you can look back on and go, wow, that was a great NC State win? There's very few. It's a very bland team. There's so many teams, in their conference that are such high-profile teams. I think they're a team, though, a lot of times we just don't think about it, forget about. And that's what you want to, on Selection Sunday, you want to have, that signature couple wins where they're not just forgetting about you because your conference is so deep. That's happened in the Big Ten a few times as well. You look at teams that I think just get forgotten about. We've seen it happen in Minnesota a couple times. So if you're NC State at this point, I think coming into the tournament, you need to have a signature win so selection committee doesn't forget about you come Selection Sunday.
All right, let's talk about some of these bubble watch teams. Again, this is just Tom's list, but I think it's their legitimate list for bubble watch teams, if you will. Wichita State lost at Memphis on Thursday night in what might have been or could have been a playout game. The Shockers were 22-8 on the season, but what are your thoughts about Wichita State there?
Well, they're a team that has had some success in the NCAA tournament in the recent years, and that a lot of times helps you. Your reputation as a team as well can get you into the tournament. And I think that's a situation that Wichita State's in now. I think they've built up enough of a reputation where they have a good fan following, but they also have been able to knock off some of the big power programs in the past. And that's something that the NCAA selection committee looks for. Let's be honest, at the end of the day, it's a TV show. And so the NCAA selection committee is looking for good teams and good games, but they're also looking for upsets
good ratings.
Because, again, it's a TV show and they need a good rating. So Wichita State, I think, is a team that has, that reputation, and I know it's a team that you like. So I think that they definitely make it into the tournament and have a decent run.
On the flip side of that, we just talked about that Wichita State lost to Memphis. The Tigers put themselves in a position to make a run at a large bit over the course of the next week when they did beat Wichita State. So how big of a win was that win of Memphis over Wichita State?
Oh, it was a very big win. But the other thing it is that we're so smart, because the other thing that gets you into the tournament, Tom, not just your reputation or your play on the court, is your basketball coach. High-profile coaches, the NCAA selection committee has a hard time sending high-profile coaches at home. There were a few years back in the Bob Knight years of Indiana basketball that they had no business probably being in the NCAA tournament, but you weren't going to sit Bob Knight at home because, again, it's a TV show. So having Penny Hardaway as their coach, I think definitely gives them a leg up on some of these other teams that are going to be fighting to get into the tournament that are on bubble watch now. Having a high-profile coach, it's hard for the NCAA tournament, the selection committee, to leave them at home. So I think they definitely have a leg up having Penny Hardaway as their head coach.
Let's talk about Cincinnati. The Bearcats dodged a bullet by erasing a 13-point deficit to beat South Florida on the road. Cincinnati has a pair of quad one wins. So what are our thoughts about Cincinnati getting another bubble team there?
They're a team that when they, back in the early part of the 2000s, they were a team that had a lot of expectations that would tend to falter in the first or second round of the tournament. But when they're coming in kind of as an underdog, as a bubble team, they're a team that's very scary to me. They're a team that I wouldn't want my team playing early on in the NCAA tournament if they wind up making it in. It's just they're a scary team, and they can pour on the points at times when you're not expecting it. So if I'm a team a high-seeded team, and I've got my first-round matchup against Cincinnati, they're definitely a team that I don't want to see. Again, they're better when they don't have the expectations on like they had in the earlier part of the decade. I like the Bearcats a lot.
So let's talk a little bit about Rhode Island. Rhode Island got absolutely pummeled at home on Wednesday night by Dayton, losing by 27 points in what was probably their biggest game of the season at this point. I don't see how the Rams get a at-large bid at this point.
No, I don't think it happens either. But you look at too, that Dayton's a pretty damn good team. So while that does hurt Rhode Island, I don't know that it's the definite proverbial nail in the coffin, because Dayton is such a good team this year. The Rams are always fun, and I love their uniforms as well. So I'd love to see Rhode Island make it. But you're right. I think they've got a point. There's a point this year where this may not work out for them.
Well, they would, if they get in, they would be the favorite to go all the way to "I love your uniform" bracket, because everybody has that bracket. I'm just picking it because I like their uniform. A lot of females are that way. Oh, I know that was probably sexist. Okay, maybe not only females, but talk about Dayton being a good team. Dayton has historically been a good team. Let's look at when Archie Miller was at Dayton. Very good team when Archie Miller was there. Archie Miller moving over to IU, they thought, well, that's why this is our Willy Wonka golden ticket. IU thought when they picked up Archie Miller from Dayton. Is it IU or is it Archie Miller that we're having issues with recruiting? We're having issues with problems. When I say we, I mean IU. Because you have Archie Miller, a great coach at Dayton, and Dayton continues to have a great program, but IU seems to just be following mediocre. Is it the coach?
Well, I would think at this point it's the coach, because if you look at when Tom Crean was there, IU did have some pretty big seasons and some pretty big recruits. But sometimes guys who are minor league pitchers, that's where they peak. The minor leagues, they were never meant to be major league pitchers. And sometimes coaches are good in those smaller conferences. They're good at the mid-major schools, and they don't peak. Not everybody's a Brad Stevens. So, it's possible that was Archie's feeling was a team like Dayton, and that's not a bad thing. And I think when IU does make a change, you'll see Archie back at a mid-major type college because that's where he thrives. Maybe he's just not the best with the big-time recruits when it comes with all the money and the boosters and the parents and the expectations. Some guys just aren't built for that, and that may be what we found out with Archie Miller. He's just not built. And to me, he's not a great in-game coach either. And you can get away with that sometimes in those mid-major conferences where you can't in a conference like the Big Ten. I think IU made a mistake bringing him in. I think they were too swift to act because they believed the hype and the buzz that Archie was going to get snapped up by somebody else. And we are where we are right now. But being a mid-major coach isn't a bad gig and not a bad thing to be. It just maybe where he's peaked.
Let's talk about the Big 12, if you will. Obviously, we know that the top teams out there are Baylor, Kansas, West Virginia, and Oklahoma. But Texas Tech, it feels kind of weird putting Texas Tech in the bubble conversation, considering the fact that they have a top 25. They are in the top 25. But the truth is that their resume isn't quite as strong as you might think this year with the Raiders.
No, and every year we see the bottom half of the top 25 teams not make it in because of all the at-large bids. So, being just because you're in the top 25 doesn't guarantee you a spot in the NCAA tournament. We see it every year happen. Like the Big 12. It's possible for a team like the Red Raiders not to make it in. I think they do make it at this point. But don't rest on your laurels that you're a top 25 team and that's going to get you in. But I think because of the strength of their conference, they're probably going to be able to eke in like an 11 or 12.
The other Texas school there in the Pac-12, the run that the Longhorns are on is a downright incredible run. Can they run right into the tournament?
It's possible at this point. I think they're definitely for sure that this is the definition of a bubble team. And without this run, honestly, I believe that Shaka Smart was going to be gone after this year. I think that the boosters and the administration are tired of the amount of money that they pay Shaka Smart to come in and be, mediocre at this point. So without this run, I think Shaka Smart would have lost his job. I think he probably needs to get into the NCAA tournament to keep his job. And, again, you're talking about a team with a big following, a big university, and they might squeak in on reputation alone, but I think that they're definitely a team that could be in some changes should they not make it.
Well, we're going to be jumping into the IndyCar conversation in just a moment, but joining us now is our official IndyCar contributor, Matthew Embury from WSBT in South Bend. Matthew, we're talking a little bit about the bubble teams, and we're trying to get ready for just 8 days away till the Selection Sunday. I know we're going to be talking some IndyCar with you, but you also wear the college hat. Talk with us about what your thoughts are on some of the bubble teams as we get ready for Selection Sunday.
Well, need we say more today? Purdue has to beat Rutgers today to have any hopes because, yes, they could make a big run in the Big Ten tournament, but right now a loss here would put them at 15 losses for the regular season. No team in NCAA history has ever gotten an at-large bid with 16 losses, and unless Purdue would somehow run the table and win the automatic bid, they would have 16 losses on the season. So I'd say it, and I think Mo would agree with me here. Purdue loses today against Rutgers. I think you could write out Purdue as having a chance to get an at-large at this point.
Mo, that's probably spot on. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. And Rutgers has been a team that people kind of just walked on over years, and now all of a sudden they're knocking teams off. I agree 100%. Purdue is definitely in some trouble at this point, and can you sneak in with a couple of wins and reputation, and that's what I think Purdue Boilermaker fans are going to have to hope for.
Mo,
right
for the BS. Go ahead, Matt.
They're fighting on a win at Iowa, and that's the thing I think that killed Syracuse several years ago. Yeah, they had a bunch of quality wins. The problem is they were all at the Carrier Dome, and all of Purdue's big wins so far have been at Mackey Arena. I just don't think if they lose to Rutgers today, it's going to be enough to get them over the top.
Mo from the BS Sports Show has joined us in our first segment. We got to move on to some IndyCar talk here with Matthew Embury and Mo. I know you got to get about your day, but any final words of wisdom, sir?
Yeah, I hope I don't die from the coronavirus.
Got your mask all ready to go. All right, Mo. We'll talk with you soon. You can find Mo at Mo Radio. Has that changed, Mo?
Well, at least for now, it's still the same. Who knows? It's up and down on a daily basis.